Welcome back to CKLA Chats. I am DLC Foster-Yankey, and in this video, we're going to be chatting about the second lesson in the Midsummer Night's Dream unit, and it is all about exploring character relationships and motivation in A Midsummer Night's Dream. So the second lesson is divided into 6 subcomponents to make up the 90-minute ELA block. They'll start with a summary of Act 2, Scene 1, whole group for 15 minutes. Then move on to some character organization with a partner for 15 minutes. They'll watch a silent video to look at some nonverbal clues, whole group for 15 minutes. Learn about Imbic Pentameter, whole group for 15 minutes. Move on to a choral reading warm-up in 2 groups for 15 minutes and conclude with some Dear Course Smoother writing independently for 15 minutes. So to begin, students will turn to the summary of Act 1, Scene 1 in the reader, and the teacher will let them know that throughout the unit, they'll read summaries of scenes before reading the scenes in Shakespeare's actual words. Students will follow along and circle all the character names they encounter as the teacher reads the summary. As the teacher reads, they are also guiding students through discussion questions and circulating as students discuss, checking in to see that they have circled the characters in the scene. So on the screen here, you'll see some of the discussion questions that teachers will be posing as they read the summary. As students identify characters, the teacher will invite them to the front of the room to hold a character card for the character they chose. Once the list of characters is complete, students put their character cards in a designated spot, such as a character wall or anchor chart, and return to their seats. These cards should be displayed for student reference. Then they'll move on to the next component of the lesson, which is character organizer for 15 minutes. Students will turn to activity page 2.1, and the teacher will model how the character organizer should be completed using Hermia as an example. The teacher tells students that for now, they need 1 adjective in the final column, and that multiple answers are possible for all the questions, as long as the answer can be supported with text evidence. Students will complete the rest of the organizer in pairs. Then they move on to the nonverbal clues, silent video component for 15 minutes. The teacher tells students that they are going to watch a video of the first part of A Midsummer Night's Dream. First, they will watch it without sound, and as they watch, they should try to identify which actors are Theseus, Hermia, Hermia's father Aegeus, Demetrius, and Lysander. They should also think about adjectives that describe what they see on the screen. The teacher asks students to think about how they can tell who is who, even without words, then plays the video. So after they have watched the video, the teacher projects screenshots from the video, and students come up to the projections to identify characters in them. As students come up, the teacher asks them to identify a specific character, then follows up with, "How did you know?" The teacher reminds students again that they will see a variety of interpretations of the play throughout the unit. Right. So for the Iambic Pentameter section, the teacher begins by clapping out the rhythm of Iambic Pentameter and having students join in. Then they'll move on to tapping on the desk in the rhythm and encourage students to join. Finally, they'll stand and, if space allows, march in iambic rhythm in place or around the room, and then freeze everyone. The teacher writes the first sentence here on the board and has students read it aloud with them. Next, they'll write the second sentence on the board and remind students that the dashes separating the words and parts of the words are breaking up the sentence into syllables. They'll have 10 students stand up in a row and assign each a syllable from the sentence on the board. Students reading the non-underlined white text speak quietly, and students reading the underlined or colored text here speak more loudly and stomp their feet when they speak. The teacher points to each syllable and has students call it out. Then has a few students who are not part of the row of 10 to read the whole sentence aloud, putting the correct emphasis on syllables, or has the whole class read the line together. And then they celebrate. Yay, you just learned an important building block of Shakespearean language and performance, iambic pentameter. Okay. Then they pose a question. Why are we learning about iambic pentameter? Because large portions of Shakespeare's plays are written in it. So introduce the official definition and have students record it on the literary vocabulary page of their activity books, which is here at the bottom of the screen. While they are recording the definition, the teacher explains further about iambic pentameter, how it made it easier for the actors to remember their parts because the rhythm was predictable, and how Shakespeare often used it for formal situations and characters, but he didn't always use it. From there, they move on to a choral reading warm-up for 15 minutes. The teacher directs students to activity page 2.2 and tells them the activity takes 30 random lines from A Midsummer Night's Dream and arranges them into a lively conversation. These lines do not appear together in this order in the actual play. The class is divided in half, and each half stands on an opposite side of the room. One half is assigned the part of lover 1 and the other the part of lover 2. Groups read the dialogue chorally. If the group isn't reading in unison after a few exchanges, the teacher stops them and begins the exchange from the beginning. For added effect or upon second reading, students begin in a whisper and gradually get louder until they are actually shouting back and forth at the end. Depends on the teacher. Before wrapping up, the teacher asks, "Did you notice a difference between the first and second lovers?" And then they move on to writing. Dear Course Smoother for 15 minutes. Here for this activity, the teacher points out an important line of the play they've learned so far, which is "The course of true love never did run smooth," and reminds students what course means in this context. The class discusses what the line might mean based on what they've read about what has already happened in the first scene and how the line has been demonstrated in the text. Then the teacher talks about advice columnists, what they do and where they do it, and tells students that throughout the unit, they will take on the role of an advice columnist known as the course smoother to offer advice to the characters in the play. The class reads the prompt on activity page 2.3 together, and I'll read it here really quickly. The prompt is, "Dear course smoother, my father is driving me crazy. I'm in love with a really nice, good guy, Lysander. We're ready to get married, but my father has decided I should marry another guy, Demetrius. There's nothing wrong with Demetrius, but I don't love him, and he won't leave me alone. And then if I don't do what my father wants, he'll kill me. Literally. That's the law. I don't want that. Lysander thinks we should run away together and get married far away, where the law does not apply. Should I take the risk and run away with Lysander, or stay and make my father happy? Longing for Lysander and fearing father, Hermia." So that is the prompt, and students are allowed about 10 minutes to write their response. If time permits, some of them share their answers with the class. So when they are done sharing, the teacher thanks them for being willing to offer advice to a very mixed up character and collects their writing for review. And if the teacher feels comfortable, they can allow students to type out their responses like real advice columnists do. And that concludes lesson 2 of Unit 7. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.